If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're in a relationship, romantic, family, or work-related, with someone whose behavior is really hard to deal with. Maybe they're all over the place emotionally. Maybe they're loving one minute and mean the next. Maybe you feel like you're always walking on eggshells. Maybe you're exhausted from the drama that starts over the smallest things. You might be confused, tired, and wondering, how do I protect myself without becoming mean or cold? Is it my job to fix them? Is it wrong to think about leaving? In this talk, we're going to focus on you, not on diagnosing the other person, not on labeling them, but on understanding how to protect yourself when you're close to someone whose behavior is chaotic, manipulative, or emotionally all over the place. You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to feel sane. And you're allowed to care about someone while also taking care of yourself. Let's start with why this even matters. Being in a relationship with someone who has serious personality problems can slowly wear you down in ways that are easy to miss. You may start to doubt what's real and what's not. You might question whether you're the problem. You could feel responsible for their moods and blow-ups. You might live in constant tension, waiting for the next thing to happen. Over time, this can lead to anxiety and depression. Physical problems like headaches, stomach issues, trouble sleeping, and constant tiredness become normal. You might pull away from friends and family, or feel guilty about spending time with others. And you may lose confidence in yourself and stop trusting your own judgment. This is why protecting yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. It's actually required if you want any chance of making good decisions for yourself and even for the relationship. When you're constantly stressed out, you can't think clearly. So the first step is to accept this simple truth. You're allowed to protect your mental and emotional health. You're not required to let someone else's untreated problems destroy your peace. Before we talk about what to do, it helps to understand what's happening. People with personality disorders, or strong signs of them, often have a shaky or twisted view of themselves. They have a really hard time controlling their emotions. Many have a deep fear of being abandoned or feeling ashamed. They tend to blame other people instead of looking at their own behavior. And their relationships are often unstable or full of manipulation. This can show up in many ways. You might see explosive anger or rage attacks. There could be silent treatment or emotional shutdown. They might shower you with love, then suddenly treat you like you're worthless. Guilt trips, making you question reality, or threats become common tactics. Drama and crises seem to follow them everywhere. They actually seem to love the emotional chaos. This doesn't make them evil, but it does mean several important things. You can't reason with them the way you would with a stable person. You can't fix them by being nicer, more patient, or more understanding. You can't sacrifice yourself enough to make their pain go away. Their behavior comes from deep patterns that usually need professional help to change. Your job is not to heal them. Your job is to keep yourself safe. One of the most powerful tools you have is boundaries. A boundary is simply this: what I will and won't accept in my life. Boundaries are not punishments. They're not ways to control the other person. They're descriptions of what you'll do to protect yourself. For example, I won't stay in the room if you yell at me. I'm not willing to talk about this while you're insulting me. If you call me names, I'll end the conversation. The key with boundaries is being clear and following through. If you say, I won't keep talking if you yell at me, then when the yelling starts, You actually have to end the conversation. That might mean hanging up the phone. It might mean leaving the room. It might mean walking away from the argument. Not to punish them, not to win, but to protect yourself from unnecessary harm. If you keep saying you have a boundary, but then don't follow through, two things happen. The other person learns your words don't mean anything, and you lose trust in yourself. So when you set a boundary, make it realistic, specific, and something you're willing to enforce, even if it feels uncomfortable. And remember, you're not responsible for how they react to your boundary. You're only responsible for stating it clearly and following through calmly. People with personality disorders often push limits. They may test you, challenge you, guilt trip you, or blow up when you try to hold a boundary. This is where staying consistent and calm becomes essential. Don't back down every time they get upset. Don't make exceptions because you feel guilty or pressured. Don't give in just to make the immediate discomfort stop. Every time you hold your boundary calmly, you send an important message to them and to yourself. My well-being matters. This doesn't mean you have to be cold or mean. You can be firm and kind at the same time. For example, I care about you, but I'm not going to keep talking while you're shouting. I'll come back when we're both calmer. Then you step away. Over time, your consistency teaches people how to treat you. And even if the other person doesn't change, your own inner strength grows. One of the biggest traps in these relationships is getting pulled into emotional chaos. You get sucked into arguments that go in circles for hours. Power struggles over who's right drain all your energy. Dramatic confrontations meant to finally make them understand leave you exhausted. You cannot win these battles. Even if you win the argument, you lose your energy, your peace, and often your self-respect. So instead of trying to win, your goal becomes don't get dragged into the chaos. Some practical strategies help with this. Speak slowly and calmly. Keep your tone neutral, not sarcastic or mocking. Don't take the bait when they provoke you, insult you, or twist your words. Use short, clear statements instead of long explanations. You might say, I'm not going to argue about this. We see this differently, and I'm not going to keep debating it. I'm stepping away from this conversation now. Then, actually, step away. You're not required to stay in an abusive or circular discussion just because the other person demands it. Remember, their need to blow things up is their pattern. Your power is in not joining that pattern. This is one of the hardest, but most freeing, shifts you can make. When someone with a personality disorder reacts with rage, coldness, accusations, or dramatic emotion, it feels very personal. It feels like, I must have done something terrible. If I were better, they wouldn't treat me like this. Maybe I really am the problem. But in many cases, what you're seeing is their internal struggle, projected onto you. For example, a narcissistic person may explode when they feel criticized because their self-esteem is incredibly fragile. A person with borderline traits may accuse you of abandoning them because they're terrified of rejection. Even when you haven't rejected them at all, a person with antisocial traits may manipulate or lie because that's how they've learned to deal with relationships. Their reactions are shaped by old wounds, twisted beliefs, and habits they developed long ago. This does not excuse dramatic or abusive behavior, but it helps you see. This is not proof that I'm defective. This is about their inability to control emotions or handle certain feelings. When you stop taking their behavior as proof that you're broken, you get your power back. You can watch the behavior instead of absorbing it. You might say to yourself, "This is their pattern, not my identity. I don't have to accept their version of me as the truth." This shift alone can dramatically reduce your stress. When you see someone suffering or acting destructively, it's natural to want to help, especially if you're empathetic. You might slip into the role of rescuer or amateur therapist. You may read articles and books, then try to explain their condition to them. You might walk on eggshells to avoid triggering them. You spend hours dealing with their feelings while ignoring your own. You feel responsible for keeping them stable or calm. This is a heavy burden you can't carry forever. You can encourage professional help, but you cannot be their professional help. It's okay to say things like, "I think talking to a therapist could really help you. Have you thought about counseling? You deserve support. I can listen, but I can't be your only support system." Beyond that, you have to recognize you can't force them into therapy. You can't make them change if they don't want to. You can't heal wounds you didn't create. Trying to fix them will burn you out and often makes things worse. Healthy love includes limits. You can care deeply and still say, "This is beyond what I can handle. You need more support than I can give." Living in constant emotional chaos takes a toll, even if you think you're handling it. That's why self-care is not optional in these situations. It's essential. Self-care looks like keeping your own friendships and connections alive. It means having at least one person you can talk to honestly about what's happening. It includes doing activities that recharge you: exercise, hobbies, time outside, creative outlets, rest. And it means getting your own therapy or counseling for support, especially if you feel confused or empty. It also means checking in with yourself regularly. How am I really doing? What is this relationship costing me? Emotionally, mentally, physically. If a friend described my situation, what advice would I give them? When you're constantly focused on the other person's moods and needs, you can lose sight of your own. Bringing attention back to yourself is not selfish. It's how you remember that you're a person too, with needs and limits that matter. Your well-being is not less important than theirs. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, despite boundaries, calm, patience, and care, the relationship stays harmful. In those cases, the healthiest choice may be to seriously limit contact. You might need to move out if you live together. You may need to create emotional distance. You might need to end the relationship completely. And you might need help from others to enforce your boundaries, including help from the police or other authorities. This can feel terrifying or guilt-inducing, especially if the person depends on you heavily, or if they paint you as the bad guy for leaving. But here is a crucial truth. You're not required to stay in a relationship that's destroying you. Choosing to leave a constantly abusive or chaotic situation is not cruelty. It's self-preservation. You can't help someone who refuses to take responsibility, refuses to get help, or keeps crossing your boundaries over and over. You're not abandoning them. You're choosing life, sanity, and peace. And remember, ending or limiting the relationship doesn't erase the care you once had. It simply says, I can care about you and still choose safety for myself. While every situation is unique, here are some warning signs that suggest you may need to limit or end contact. You feel constantly afraid, anxious, or on edge around them. Your self-esteem has dropped dramatically since the relationship began. They repeatedly ignore or punish you for setting boundaries. You experience emotional, verbal, financial, or physical abuse. They refuse to take any responsibility or get help over a long time. Your friends or family express serious concern about your safety or well-being. You notice them getting worse, losing jobs, cutting off friends and family, or increased drug or alcohol use. If you recognize many of these signs, consider talking to a trusted friend, therapist, or domestic violence hotline, especially if there's any threat of violence. You don't have to make big decisions alone. Protecting yourself isn't only about what you do with the other person. It's also about how you rebuild your relationship with yourself. Long-term exposure to disordered or abusive behavior can destroy your confidence. It can make you doubt your gut feelings. It can leave you feeling empty, numb, or ashamed. So as you set boundaries and take care of yourself, also practice self-validation. My feelings make sense given what I've been through. Practice self-compassion. I did the best I could with what I knew and the support I had. And practice self-trust. If something feels wrong, I'm allowed to act on that. You're not weak for struggling. You're not stupid for staying. You're human, and humans get tangled up in complicated love and loyalty all the time. What matters is what you choose from here. If there's one message I hope you take from this, it's this: your well-being matters. You're not a supporting character in someone else's drama. You're not a tool for managing their emotions. You're a person with your own needs, your own pain, and your own right to safety and peace. Protecting yourself through boundaries, staying calm, not getting dragged into chaos, emotional distance, self-care, and when needed, ending the relationship, is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of courage. It's an act of self-respect. It's how you take your life back. You didn't cause their disorder. You can't cure their disorder. But you can choose, starting now, to move toward health, clarity, and peace for yourself. You deserve relationships where your feelings matter, where your boundaries are respected, and where love doesn't come at the cost of your sanity. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. May you find the strength, support, and safety you need. One boundary, one choice, one step at a time.